Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, it's kind of a rainy Monday morning here in Waco, Texas, and I decided I was just going to do another episode of Bytes and Nibbles with Breck today. Today we're going to make an old family recipe. This is something my mom has made a number of times, and it's one of the recipes that she gave me a while back. This is her recipe for red, white, and blue Jello dessert. Now I probably should have done this a week ago for the 4th of July, but I was out looking at fireworks displays instead, so we're going to do it today. So here are the ingredients for our red, white, and blue Jello dessert. First off, we're going to of course have Jello. I've got raspberry flavored Jello and blue or berry blue Jello. This one actually, you're going to have to make sure you can find this. I actually had to go to several different places in order to actually find this. They didn't have it at HEB. I actually found it at Walmart, and they had one box of it, so that might be a little bit of a challenge. We're also going to use some unflavored gelatin, some granulated sugar, sour cream, vanilla extract, some heavy whipping cream, some fresh blueberries, some fresh raspberries, and some ready whip to top it with. Let's get going. And of course, with any gelatin dessert, you need some boiling water and some cold water to make your Jello. I'm not going to go into great detail on that. I'm sure you can figure that one out. If not, I'm sure there's a recipe on the internet. So we're going to start off with the blue layer first because the blue is on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to empty my packet of Jello mix into a large bowl, and we're going to add 1 cup of hot water, 1 cup of cold water. We're going to kind of mix it until everything dissolves, and then we're going to add our blueberries. So I've emptied the powder into a large mixing bowl, and I'm going to add 1 cup of boiling water. And we're just going to kind of mix it all in until all the powder, all the gelatin dissolves. Happens pretty fast. Alright, that pretty much takes that. Now I'm going to mix in 1 cup of cold water. And in goes the cold water. And we're just going to kind of blend that together, just make sure it's all nice and mixed in. And next we're going to mix in the blueberries. And in goes 1 cup of blueberries. Now the recipe says fresh blueberries. I'm sure you go with frozen if you wish, but I always go with fresh if I have the option. So mix that in, and we're going to pour this into a 3-quart dessert bowl. And we are going to throw that in the refrigerator for a little while and let that harden. About an hour, they say. Now while I'm waiting for the first layer to solidify, I'm going to actually begin preparing the second layer. The second layer in this case is going to be 1/2 cup of water, and we're going to pour that into a small saucepan. We're going to pour in our unflavored gelatin, 1 pack, and we'll kind of let that mix up a little bit. And it says let it sit for about a minute, so we're going to let it sit for about a minute, and I'll catch up with you in a minute. Alright, that was about a minute, so now I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of granulated white sugar and 1 cup of the heavy whipping cream. It's just the whole packet, so we're just going to put that all in there. Mix that all together. And I'm going to put that on the stove at a low heat. Basically keep it moving until everything's kind of dissolved, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to go about nice low heat on that, and I'll catch up with you in a few minutes. Now we're not going to actually bring this up to a boil. We're not going to even come anywhere near that. We just want to heat up the solution a little bit so it kind of gets everything kind of going together. And it says basically just kind of keep it moving under a low heat until all of the solids, the sugar and the gelatin, have dissolved. And that shouldn't take long. You won't really see it in this case. You'll kind of more hear it because you can kind of hear the gelatin, the sugar kind of grinding between the pan and the wooden spoon. And when you stop hearing that, then it's pretty much all dissolved. You generally don't want to bring cream products up to a boil anyway. Alright, this mixture feels pretty smooth now. I'm not hearing any more of the grit in the bottom of the pan, so I'm gonna turn off the heat, and we're gonna basically let this thing sit now and return back to like room temperature before we move on to the next step. So I'll catch up with you in a little bit. Alright, this is kind of cooled down to room temperature, so now I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract and one 16-ounce tub of sour cream. And we're just going to kind of mix that all together, and I kind of need to have two hands. So I'm going to put the camera down and scoop that in there with a spoon. Sometimes it's amazing what you can do with two hands that you can't do with one. So anyway, I'm just going to take this and kind of whisk this all together until it's nice and smooth. And then we'll move on to the next step. I'll catch up with you in a minute. Now I've kind of kept the sour cream at room temperature for a while. It kind of makes it mix in a little bit easier. When it's cold, it doesn't necessarily mix as well. But as you can see, I've got it nice and smooth, and there's no lumps, nothing funny in there. So this is about ready to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to spoon it on top of the first layer, which has been solidifying in the refrigerator for an hour. It's actually been in there for a little bit more than an hour because I need to give it a little time to get nice and solid so we can put this layer on top of it. But we're coming along pretty good here, I think. Alright, so the first layer is set up pretty well, and I'm just going to use this ladle to kind of scoop in the second layer on top of the first one. You don't really want to, you might be inclined to say, oh, what we'll do is I'll just pour it from the pan. The problem is you do that, and sometimes what ends up happening is it kind of mixes the layers together. So you do it this way, you do it kind of delicately here, and you don't end up mixing everything together. It just turns out better. And then we get in there with a paper towel too. I kind of touch the side of the bowl a little bit with the ladle, and I want to get that out of there. Now, I got a pretty good solid layer in there now, so I am going to kind of gently pour the rest of this in there. We'll get a little rubber scraper here and deal with that too. Hang on a second. And there's my second layer. I actually used the rubber scraper a little bit to push the stuff on the side down. But you can see we're kind of getting we got our white and our blue now. So I'm going to put this back in the fridge a little bit more and let this solidify for another hour or two, and then we'll work on the red layer. Alright, a couple hours have passed by. The second layer is set up pretty well, so now we're going to start on the third layer. This is the red layer, and what I'm going to do is, just like we did on the first layer, we're going to mix 1 cup of boiling water in with the red Jello mix. This is the raspberry Jello mix, and we're going to mix this all up until we dissolve it, until we dissolve all the Jello mix, and then we're going to add 1 cup of cold water. So just kind of stir it all together. Once again, we're just going to keep mixing until it's not gritty anymore. Till all the Jello mix is dissolved. I think we're just about there. Alright, I think that's about good. Let's add the cold water. Alright, here we go with 1 cup of cold water. Mix it all together. Doesn't take a whole lot because you're just mixing liquid with liquid here. And then we're going to put in 1 cup of fresh cranberries. And then just like we did with the second layer, we're going to spoon in the third layer on top of the second. And then we're going to put this in the refrigerator. And I think in this case I'm going to let it chill overnight because it's kind of getting late in the day right now. And so we'll come back and we'll do our taste test in the morning. But let's mix it in with the other 2 layers and get it chilling. Alright, here we go. I'm going to start, I'm going to kind of avoid too much of the raspberries right at the beginning here. Just kind of delicately pour it on here. Kind of mixing spreading the raspberries around here a little bit. What I'll probably do is get in there a little bit with a spoon at the end and just make sure the raspberries are distributed nice, so they're not all concentrated in one area. Alright, I'm going to put the camera down for a minute. You'll just have to use your imagination for this, but we'll catch up with you in a minute. Alright, we got all the Jello in there. Like I said, I'm just going to kind of get in there with a spoon a little bit and just kind of distribute everything a little bit so that they're not all clumped up in one area here, right? Alright, I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to put that in the refrigerator and let that chill overnight. Now you see why they call it red, white, and blue Jello, right? So we'll catch up with you in the morning. That'll be the next scene for you, but I'm going to sleep it off. So I'll catch up with you tomorrow. And I wanted to show you this. You remember a couple weeks ago I put in these purely purple crepe myrtles in the front yard to replace a couple of the plants that died in the big freeze. I was out here yesterday. One of them's already starting to bloom a little bit, so this is going to add some real nice color to this yard. This is the other one. It's doing well. It isn't blooming yet, but that's okay. It will shortly. I can see some berries starting to appear on it, so that's a good thing. Alright, our Jello dessert has set up overnight and it's nice and firm now. Kind of get the idea why they call it red, white, and blue, don't you? So the next part isn't actually in the recipe, but they do it and they kind of show it in the picture. So I'm just going to use a little whipped cream, put it on top, and kind of a couple different little spots here. Probably should have used a new can, right? Okay, hang on a second. Alright, well I thought I had another can of it in the fridge, but that one was empty too. So anyway, I just got what I could out of what was left of the one can. And basically what they were doing is just dropping blueberries and raspberries right on the top here. I was going to try and do 6 little things of it, but I ran out of it, so I'm going to have an extra raspberry or extra blueberry. Looks like it'll be an extra raspberry. It just adds a little color to the top. And then it's ready to go. So now it's the all-important taste test time. Now I'm not really going to do much of an official taste test because I already know this is going to be good. I've had this before and it turned out really well, so give it a shot. Yep, just what I expected. Really good. Definitely recommend this one. Like I said, this is an old recipe my mom has made a bunch of times. I guess it's just something she got out of a magazine, but we've had this a bunch of times and it's really good. So definitely check it out. I'll put it in the recipe. I'll put it in the comments section below so you can try this on your own, but definitely recommend this one. So I think that's all that I have for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.